Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most surprising and engaging mysteries in the entire world of rare American coins, a story that continues to capture the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and curious viewers all over the world. And today we are talking about the unbelievable rumors and astonishing claims surrounding the 1995 1-cent coin that some say has reached a staggering and almost unbelievable face value of $59 million due to a combination of errors, mistakes, rare conditions, and the unique and unexpected circumstances that make certain coins from everyday circulation turn into absolute legends of numismatics. And if you've ever wondered how a simple 1-cent coin minted in Denver back in 1995 could possibly skyrocket to such an outrageous and jaw-dropping value, then stick with me through this deep exploration as we unravel the errors that might occur at the mint, the mistakes that slip past quality control, the striking anomalies that collectors obsess over, and the hidden details that transform a simple penny into a dream find that coin enthusiasts talk about for years. Because today we are going to explore not just the coin itself but the entire ecosystem of possibility that surrounds it, the what-ifs, the how could this happen scenarios, the tiny imperfections that can turn ordinary copper-plated zinc into something mythic, and why people still go searching through pocket change, hoping one day they might stumble across that one elusive piece that changes everything. So let's begin with the 1995 1-cent coin, a penny minted at the Denver Mint during a period of high production where billions of cents were rolling off the lines, meaning that in such huge mass production environments, the probability of mint errors naturally rises, and when errors do happen, especially on iconic Lincoln cents, collectors pay very close attention, because a coin with a dramatic mint mistake can instantly become a holy grail. And in the case of this rumored $59 million valuation, the story often starts with speculation around double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die breaks, die cracks, cuds, planchet errors, struck-through grease errors, repunched mint marks, and even extremely rare transitional or experimental planchet anomalies that can theoretically exist in microscopic numbers. And even though many people assume only pre-1982 copper cents carry value, the truth is that modern zinc cents can carry astonishing worth if the right error is present, and that's where the fascination of the 1995 penny lies, because collectors whisper about examples that supposedly show dramatic doubling on the lettering, doubling on the date, doubling around Lincoln's profile, or strange distortions along the motto or rim that suggest a major double die obverse. And while the Philadelphia 1995 double die obverse is well known and widely collected, the Denver examples are far more elusive and potentially far rarer, and rarity is what drives price. But the story doesn't end there, because some believe there might exist a small handful of 1995 pennies struck on leftover copper planchets that should have been retired over a decade earlier, and if such a coin exists, it would instantly become one of the most valuable modern pennies ever made, since transitional errors are among the rarest types of minting accidents in U.S. history. And just imagine the frenzy that would erupt if a certified 1995 copper transitional penny was discovered with a dramatic double die on top of that, because combining two major errors exponentially increases rarity, creating the kind of once-in-a-generation collectible that auction houses fight over and wealthy collectors pursue with blank checks. And while the $59 million rumor is certainly extreme, it stems from the idea that a coin containing multiple layered errors, surviving in perfect mint state condition, and tied to one of the most popular series in U.S. numismatics, could theoretically achieve a record-smashing price if the right buyer, the right hype, and the right coin came together at the right time. And this has happened before, where coins like the 1933 Double Eagle, the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, or ultra-rare cents have shattered expectations at auction. So the numismatic world knows that extraordinary sales are possible when rarity, controversy, and historical significance converge. And although there is no confirmed sale of a 1995 penny at $59 million, the rumors persist because collectors know there are secretive private sales, undisclosed trades, vault-kept rarities, and one-of-a-kind specimens that never make headlines, coins that exist in the shadows of the hobby and only appear in whispers between high-end collectors who guard their discoveries intensely, especially when the coins involve dramatic mint errors that could send shockwaves through the market. And some of the rumored specimens of the 1995 penny supposedly show severe off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait floats halfway toward the edge, or retained cuds that create massive bubbles of raised metal where the die is fractured, or broad-struck errors where the rim is absent and the design spreads outward like melted wax, giving the coin a ghostly, surreal appearance. And each of these kinds of errors can already be worth hundreds or thousands, but when combined, especially if preserved in pristine uncirculated condition, the price can escalate dramatically. and people have reported seeing coins struck through debris where part of Lincoln's face appears missing, or coins with die deterioration doubling so intense that the lettering seems to vibrate off the surface. And even though most of these anomalies on 1995 D cents are minor or common, the possibility that a few dramatic, catastrophic minting accidents occurred is what fuels the myth. Because collectors know the Denver Mint was moving massive quantities that year, and speed plus volume often leads to mistakes, especially when dies were down, break unexpectedly, or misaligned slightly without being caught immediately by inspectors. And in numismatics, every tiny slip can result in a coin that becomes priceless. And imagine the scenario where a misaligned die struck multiple coins before being corrected, or a damaged die created a dramatic retained interior break that left a portion of the design raised like a blister, or a die filled with grease partially erased the motto or date, creating a ghost-like effect that collectors adore, because these coins stand out immediately as special, rare, and potentially extremely valuable. And with the right combination of ingredients, error, rarity, condition, mystery, and hype, rumors of astronomical value naturally emerge. And that is exactly what has happened with this incredibly talked about 1995 D penny, as collectors theorize that somewhere, locked away, hidden from public view, or maybe lost in someone's old jar of change, sits a coin that would break the numismatic world in half with its value, a coin that collectors dream about but have never publicly seen. And this sense of possibility fuels the excitement behind the $59 million legend, because when you consider the known mint errors that already fetch serious money, the hypothetical super error coin seems just within the realm of possibility. And whether these stories are exaggerated or based on private knowledge isn't always clear, but what matters most is that they keep the chase alive, pushing collectors to examine every 1995 D penny with hope and eagerness, flipping the coin under magnification, looking for the telltale signs of dramatic doubling, off-metal strikes, die caps, clips, indent errors, or planchet flaws that might place their find into the realm of numismatic legend. And just imagine the thrill of holding a coin most people overlook, only to realize it holds rare imperfections that elevate its worth into life-changing territory, because that thrill is what drives the entire hobby, that dream of discovery, that desire to find something so rare and so valuable that it becomes the centerpiece of a collection or the headline of an auction. And even though most 1995 D pennies are completely ordinary, the idea that a few extraordinary ones might exist transforms the entire population into a treasure hunt waiting to happen. And this is why so many people search through pocket change, estate sales, flea markets, coin rolls, inherited collections, bank boxes, and forgotten drawers, hoping to uncover something special, because the numismatic world has proven time and time again that miracles do happen, mistakes slip through, errors go unnoticed for decades, and coins once considered common sometimes reveal themselves to be unbelievable rarities after closer examination. And with the 1995 D penny, that possibility continues to spark imagination and curiosity as collectors wonder whether that fabled multi-million-dollar example might one day surface, perhaps discovered by someone who least expects it, someone who casually picks up an old penny, looks twice, and suddenly realizes they've stumbled upon something extraordinary, something that defies expectations and rewrites what we think we know about modern coins. And that idea alone is enough to keep the myth alive and thriving, inspiring countless searches and examinati. Next, 2007 D1 cent. Today we're going to explore one of the most fascinating modern pennies that collectors whisper about in online forums, coin clubs, and auction previews, a coin that looks so ordinary yet has gained a reputation for being worth an unbelievable $26 million because of a combination of jaw-dropping mint errors, production mysteries, misaligned strikes, experimental planchet possibilities, rare conditions, and the ever-growing obsession among collectors to own something that feels like a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. So settle in as we talk about the 2007 D1 cent coin, a coin minted in Denver during a year when millions upon millions of cents rolled out of the presses like clockwork, yet somewhere in that ocean of copper-coated zinc pieces came a tiny handful of cents that would go on to become legends. Coins so unique and dramatic in their errors that their very existence sparks debates among experts and new collectors alike. And as we walk through this journey, I want you to imagine the possibilities, the minting floors in 2007, the machines designed to produce perfection but occasionally slipping in ways that even the mint never intended, the sudden mechanical hiccup that introduces a doubling, the unnoticed foreign material that gets struck into the coin's surface, the rotating misalignment that throws the design off balance, and the barely detectable planchet anomaly that sits silently in the metal until one day a collector picks up the coin and sees something extraordinary, Because the magic of coins like the 2007 million-dollar penny is that they blur the line between accident and art, between mistake and masterpiece. So let's begin by revisiting what made the 2007 cent an interesting coin to begin with. Produced with the familiar shieldless design featuring Lincoln's long-used profile created by Victor David Brenner. But unlike earlier copper cents, by 2007 the composition was copper plating over zinc, a metal combination known for being economical but also notorious for introducing unexpected errors, such as plating bubbles, cracks, peeling, corrosion patterns and weak spots where the zinc core reacts differently under high striking pressure, and that unpredictability alone sets the stage for dozens of potential mint errors, meaning the 2007 cent was born in an era where mistakes weren't just occasional, they were practically baked into the system, which is why collectors always pay special attention to anything struck at Denver during the mid-2000s, and so the story begins with a rumor, as these things often do, that a particular 2007 penny surfaced with such dramatic doubling across Lincoln's face, beard, date, and lettering that collectors originally assumed it had to be fake, but when magnification and metallurgical analysis suggested the doubling occurred at the moment of striking, suddenly experts began to take it seriously, and that was only the beginning, because more variations of errors started popping up in private collections, each with unique characteristics, like a 2007 cent where the mint mark appeared punched unusually low and at a slight diagonal slant, a sign of a misaligned hubbing process, or another example where the letters in United States of America appeared stretched and shadowed, creating what is known as a dramatic die deterioration doubling. And although this type of doubling is not technically as valuable as true hub doubling, some varieties were so extreme that collectors treated them like modern marvels, especially since coins from the 2000s rarely exhibit the bold dramatic effects seen in older double dies from the 1950s and 1960s, which made these 2007 anomalies feel like modern treasures hiding in plain sight. And the most jaw-dropping discovery came when a coin surfaced showing a bizarre off-center strike combined with a partial collar issue, meaning the coin was not fully seated in the retaining ring during striking, causing the rim to spread on one side, narrow on another, and create a lopsided but mesmerizing appearance, and experienced collectors know that when off-center strikes combine with any other dramatic error, the value skyrockets, especially when the coin still shows the full date and mint mark, because those details are critical for establishing rarity, provenance, and auction interest. And as this information reached collectors around the world, some began speculating that there may have been a major mechanical malfunction at the Denver Mint in 2007 that produced a cluster of rare errors, possibly related to worn dies, improperly lubricated machinery, uneven planchet feeding, temperature fluctuations affecting zinc planchets, or even an experimental batch of copper plating from a contractor that didn't adhere properly, which could explain the waves of plating bubbles, missing patches, split plating, and strange dark streaks seen on some of the coins. And although none of these theories have ever been officially confirmed by the Mint, the speculation itself fuels demand, because coin collectors love a mystery almost as much as they love rarity, and the story of the 2007 penny's rise to multi-million-dollar fame becomes even more compelling when we consider how few verified examples exist, with some collectors insisting only 3 ultra-rare specimens with extraordinary combinations of errors have ever surfaced, perhaps a double die mixed with an off-center strike and a planchet defect all on one coin, a perfect storm of mistakes that transforms what should be a simple 1-cent piece into an artifact of minting history. And when these kinds of coins enter the private auction world, bidding wars erupt, with wealthy collectors, museums, investors, and enthusiasts all desperate to own something they believe will never appear again. And the frenzy itself drives the perceived value upward until the number reaches tens of millions, because value in the rare coin world often has as much to do with desire and rarity as it does with the coin's metal content, and collectors know that a coin like the 2007 million-dollar penny represents the unpredictable beauty of mint errors, the fusion of human oversight, mechanical chaos, and historical context. And to truly understand why someone would pay $26 million for a coin like this, we need to think about how value works. Uniqueness, story, rarity, provenance, visual appeal, dramatic error severity, and collector psychology all merge to create something ordinary that becomes extraordinary. And for the 2007 penny, the errors are as varied as they are fascinating, from rotated dies where the design appears tilted when flipped, to brockage strikes where part of another coin's design is stamped backward into the surface, to clipped planchets where pieces of metal are missing from the edge because the planchet was cut incorrectly, to die breaks that produce raised blobs or cracks across Lincoln's portrait, to struck through errors where foreign materials like grease, lint, or metal shavings left imprints in the coin's surface. creating bizarre shapes that can range from subtle shadows to dramatic missing details, and each of these errors contributes to the legend of the 2007 cent, especially when combined in rare and unexpected ways, and because these errors are extremely scarce in high-grade condition, the value rises dramatically, since even ordinary modern pennies struggle to stay pristine due to circulation, wear, handling, storage, humidity, and the fragile nature of zinc cores that corrode easily, meaning a real mint-era 2007 penny in near-perfect condition becomes an impossible rarity, and rarity breeds value, especially when collectors begin telling stories about how certain extraordinary coins disappeared into private vaults, purchased quietly by wealthy buyers who want their identities and collections to remain secret, which only adds more mystery and desirability, because nothing excites collectors like a coin they may never see again, and the idea that a modern penny minted in 2007 could become a multi-million-dollar treasure symbolizes how the coin world constantly evolves, with new discoveries always possible, new varieties emerging and new collectors entering the market each year searching their change in hopes of finding the next legendary error, and that's what makes coins like this so captivating, because every pocket, every cash drawer, every forgotten jar of pennies in someone's kitchen might hold a rare error waiting to be discovered, and as long as that possibility exists, the fascination with coins like the 2007 will continue to grow, inspiring more research, more excitement, and more stories of small coins worth life-changing amounts of money. So if you love exploring these unbelievable coin mysteries and discovering how ordinary coins sometimes become priceless treasures, make sure to stick around, enjoy the journey, and stay excited for the next incredible story we uncover. And if you like this deep dive into the world of rare mint errors and the astonishing value of the 2007 penny, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join us next time for more amazing coin discoveries that might just change the way you look at your spare change forever. Last 2021 cent coin that some collectors believe could be worth an incredible $13 million because of a combination of rare manufacturing errors, unusual mistakes, mysterious production anomalies, and the intriguing circumstances surrounding its sudden rise in popularity. So sit back as we unravel every detail, chasing down every possibility and exploring why a coin that normally sits unnoticed at the bottom of pockets, jars, and drawers has suddenly become the center of wild speculation, electrifying the coin community with rumors that a tiny copper-coated zinc cent minted in 2020 might actually be one of the most extraordinary error coins of the modern era, a coin that collectors dream of finding because of the combination of misstrikes, off-center strikes, planchet defects, double dies, die deterioration, unusual surfaces, unexpected metadata from the minting process, and tales of experimental strikes that might have accidentally slipped through the quality control system, creating an object so rare and so shocking that people imagine it commanding a value in the tens of millions. And while many will say the number is exaggerated or that no regular 2020 cent could ever reach that kind of auction result, it has not stopped the endless stream of discussions, late-night debates, social media posts, collector theories, and passionate speculation about what could make a 2021 cent coin skyrocket in value to such an unimaginable figure. And it's in these conversations that the most interesting possibilities begin to emerge, starting with the fact that 2020 was a year of enormous disruption at the U.S. Mint, where staffing shortages, rapid production shifts, and emergency minting decisions created an environment where unusual mistakes could have occurred without ever being caught. And collectors love moments like this because history has shown that coins produced during chaotic or transitional periods often produce errors of monumental importance, such as off-metal strikes where a coin meant for one denomination is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another, something that has happened a few times in U.S. Mint history and always leads to massive auction values. So collectors have begun wondering if a 2020 cent could exist struck on a dime planchet, a nickel planchet, or even something more exotic like an experimental alloy tested briefly at the mint before being abandoned. And while no official records confirm such a mistake, the possibility alone fuels the excitement, because if just one such coin were discovered, it would instantly become one of the rarest modern errors ever made, and the competition among high-end collectors would drive the price to astronomical levels. And the theories don't end there, because some believe that the real value lies in the possibility of a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's profile, lettering, or date could show extreme duplication caused by a misalignment in the hubbing process, and dramatic double dies are among the most sought-after kinds of errors, with earlier examples like the famous 1955 double die cent selling for thousands or even hundreds of thousands depending on condition. So if a major double die was produced in 2020 but only a few pieces escaped into circulation before the dies were replaced, then any surviving examples would be astonishingly valuable, especially if the doubling was large, bold, and easily visible without magnification. The kind of doubling that instantly shocks collectors and drives prices to incredible heights, and with modern minting techniques producing fewer dramatic errors than vintage years, the appearance of a bold 2020 double die would be a monumental event in the coin community, leading many to conclude that such a coin could theoretically reach well into the millions if two or more determined collectors bid against each other at a high-profile auction, which has happened before in numismatic history. When rarity, demand, and competition collide in the perfect storm that sends prices to unbelievable levels, and then there's the possibility of off-center strikes, where the die strikes the planchet improperly aligned, creating a crescent-shaped blank area on the coin along with distorted images and fragmented lettering, and while most off-center cents from any year are common and inexpensive unless they show complete dates, collectors speculate that an extreme off-center 2020 cent with a full visible date and mint mark could become highly valuable, especially since coins from recent years with dramatic misalignments are considerably rarer because modern machines usually reject them instantly. But if even one extreme off-center coin escaped quality control and quietly entered circulation, it would become a prized discovery worth tens of thousands or more depending on the severity of the strike, and when combined with other errors such as a clipped planchet, die crack, or lamination error, the value could climb even higher, which leads us into the next theory that excites collectors: the possibility of a compound error, a rare but spectacular event when two or more major errors occur on the same coin, such as an off-center strike combined with a double strike or a rotated die paired with a misaligned collar. And compound errors are among the most visually dramatic mistakes in all of numismatics because they show complex layers of mechanical failure, making them irresistible to high-end collectors and generating huge auction results. And if a 2020 cent exists with a combination of dramatic errors that are visually stunning, historically significant, and definitively provable as authentic mint mistakes, then its value could soar to an amount so high that the $13 million speculation begins to feel less like fantasy and more like the upper edge of extreme possibility, especially if that coin were the only known example, because nothing inflates auction prices like true one-of-a-kind rarity. And speaking of rarity, another major theory involves the idea of mule errors. Some of the rarest mistakes ever made, where two dies intended for different denominations or designs are accidentally paired together, creating a coin that should not exist, and mule errors in the US mint system are extremely rare, with only a small handful known across all denominations, and they always command huge auction values because they represent a failure in the minting process so significant that it borders on the impossible, and collectors cannot resist owning something the mint insists could never happen. So if a 2020 cent mule exists, such as a Lincoln obverse paired with a reverse intended for another denomination like a dime or an outdated design never meant to be struck in 2020, then that coin would instantly become one of the rarest and most desirable modern coins ever discovered, a coin capable of generating enormous attention, national headlines, and astonishing auction prices. And the idea of a 2020 mule is especially enticing because 2020 was a transitional year when the mint was adjusting production procedures, temporarily shifting staff between facilities, and even dealing with unexpected mint closures, all of which increase the chance, however small, of accidental die pairings that normally would be caught long before any coins were released into circulation. And the moment collectors imagine these kinds of possibilities, the speculation escalates because history has shown that when one extraordinary error from a modern year is discovered, it often awakens a massive wave of interest as people begin examining bags, rolls, boxes, and jars of change hoping to find the next big treasure. And this sudden surge of public excitement can itself influence perceived value, especially if collectors begin bidding aggressively to obtain the first verified example of a rumored error, creating a feedback loop where rarity, hype, and competition fuel each other until prices shoot upward. And people love the idea that an ordinary cent produced by the millions could hide one extraordinary survivor that stands out like a diamond in a mountain of sand. And it's this idea of hidden treasure that keeps the legend of the $13 million 2020 cent alive. But the story goes even deeper as collectors analyze other factors such as die deterioration that can create unusual textures, unexpected shapes, or distortions on a coin, sometimes leading to unique patterns that, when paired with other errors, produce ultra-rare varieties unlike anything else in the entire mintage. And though die deterioration alone rarely justifies extreme value, when it occurs in combination with double strikes, planchet defects, or off-metal conditions, it can transform an already rare error into a truly remarkable piece of numismatic history. And this brings us to another fascinating possibility: the existence of prototype or test strikes, coins produced in extremely small quantities for internal evaluation at the mint and usually destroyed afterward, but history shows that a few such coins have escaped into the wild over the decades, sometimes by accident, sometimes by mishandling, and sometimes simply by being overlooked, and these pieces often become legendary because they represent secret experiments, abandoned projects, or brief trials of new alloys, designs, or minting processes, and if a 2020 prototype cent exists. Featuring an unusual metal composition, an alternative finish, a modified portrait, or even a minor design detail that differs from the regular issue.